This situation keeps getting crazier for the New York Knicks as reports continue to escalate surrounding Tom Thibodeau and his future with the New York Knicks, as more reports have come out surrounding Tom Thibodeau and what the future holds for the New York Knicks as the Knicks prepare for their biggest offseason over the last decade, being just 2 games away from the NBA Finals for the first time and losing a series that many pegged them to win, and everybody turning their fingers and pointing at Tom Thibodeau as the problem for this team amidst some other problems as well. And all of it ties in to what is breaking down right now, and everything that's coming out as new reports have also been revealed surrounding Thibs, and there's a ton to talk about. What's up, guys? Welcome back to Knicks Digest. It's Chris here. We're going to jump right into things, and guys, make sure to subscribe to Knicks Digest if you're part of that 74% that's not. We're on that grind. The offseason's begun. We always make a ton of videos over the offseason. We're going to start doing YouTube Shorts, and TikTok's getting taken a little week and a half, 2 weeks off of that, just with everything going on with the New York Knicks. But now with the offseason in full swing already, things are heating up surrounding the New York Knicks, specifically in regards to head coach Tom Thibodeau, because when the New York Knicks lost the series 4-2 against the Indiana Pacers, they got eliminated by the same team once again. And once again, we saw Tom Thibodeau get outcoached by Rick Carlisle. Now, part of that is Rick Carlisle is one of the best coaches in basketball. There's nothing else you could say about it. Carlisle's phenomenal. Tom Thibodeau, I will stand by. The man is a good coach. I don't necessarily think he's the right coach for this team, but the man is a good coach. And because of that, and because his ties to the New York Knicks, many Knicks fans are on the fence of if they think he is going to leave or not, if he is going to get fired or sort of taken out of the head coaching role, get moved into sort of a front office role where he becomes the vice president of basketball management and the Knicks move on from Garrison Rosas instead. That is something that I think would happen if Tom Thibodeau is no longer going to be coaching the New York Knicks. Thibs is nearing 70 years old, and with Greg Popovich retired from coaching basketball, Tom Thibodeau is the oldest coach in basketball, and a lot of fans, myself included, believe there are times that Tom Thibodeau is sort of letting the game pass him by as he gets a little bit older. Now, Thibs has shown willingness to adjust, but only when his back is fully against the wall and he's feeling in a bad situation. We know that Tom Thibodeau has found himself in a situation where at times it's unclear if he's going to keep his job. Things have not always been smooth in New York. When they missed the playoffs in that 2022 season after regressing, a lot of fans turned towards Tom Thibodeau, myself included, saying that he should be fired. I wanted Thibs gone after that season, but I thought he coached 2023 very well. I thought 2024, there were some missteps by Thibs, but he did do a better job, and I think 2025, he did make a few missteps here that definitely could lead to being fired. Now, there's been some players who have stuck up for him. Obviously, in the time with the New York Knicks, there's also been players who have not loved Tom Thibodeau, and this is something that I know New York Knicks fans are kind of going to be against me when I say this, but for the most part, this team likes Thibs. They do. They like Tom Thibodeau. Yes, there's been times in the past where Knicks players have not been big fans of Thibs. RJ Barrett is someone to name. Wasn't Thibs' biggest supporter. Another one who was not Thibs' biggest supporter was Obi Toppin. There was that leak of the soundbite of Obi calling Thibs out when the Knicks went down 3-1 to the Miami Heat in the second round of the playoffs in 2023, a series the Knicks also ultimately lost in 6. Now, all this being said, diving into this report, we have a bombshell update from Fred Katz and James Edwards that revealed that during the playoff run, the coaching staff remained cautious of its future, understanding that a first-round loss to the Pistons or even a second-round defeat to the Boston Celtics could mean changes, according to league sources. Thibodeau absorbed criticisms about heavy minutes for the starters. Hardly a new critique, but New York's roster was one of the NBA's healthiest all season and concluded the playoffs with no one injured. The coach has the backing of team president Leon Rose, league sources said, as well as a full buy-in from captain Jalen Brunson, who signed with the Knicks in 2022 in part because he wanted to play for Thibodeau. But ultimately, owner James Dolan is the final decision maker here, which is important to note. Look, we know James Dolan is James Dolan. It's the best way to put him. The man, at times, has been the worst owner that you could imagine. But recently, and again, I don't know how everyone's going to feel about this, these last few years since Leon Rose took over, I've, not even just he's okay at it, I thought James Dolan has been a good owner for the New York Knicks. He's stayed 100% out of the way. He's letting the Knicks do their own thing. He's not pressuring them into making the moves that he wants to make, calling himself the owner and that he could basically take anyone's job whenever he feels like it. If you hear those sirens outside, you probably at some point wanted to throw James Dolan in jail for some of the stuff he's done in the past. However, with Leon Rose, he stayed out of Leon's way and let Leon do his thing while Dolan's been open to bankrolling the whole situation. Dolan is not going to stop the Knicks from firing Tom Thibodeau because Dolan, still has to pay Tom Thibodeau either way. Dolan doesn't care about that. The man has endless money. He's a multi-billionaire. The man's not worried about paying Tom Thibodeau that money. On top of that, especially if Thibs is still in the front office because he still works for the Knicks, so it's not like he's just burning it, even though he is sort of burning it. But look, What really matters here is the fact that James Dolan at any point we know can go rogue, show up, and make changes. We've seen him do that before. James Dolan stepped in to fire Phil Jackson a few days after the NBA draft, a move that New York Knicks fans were thrilled about, but also wondered why they let Phil Jackson make a draft pick that ultimately was a mistake. The Knicks, they did not want... Most of the people in the front office did not want Frank Ntilikina. The majority of them wanted the Knicks to select Donovan Mitchell out of Louisville. However, Phil, who said, I'm going to select Donovan Mitchell, lied, took Frank Ntilikina 2 days later, tried to waive Carmelo Anthony, which is where Dolan's like, last straw, you're gone. And then the Knicks ultimately hired Steve Mills as the president. He was terrible. Scott Perry was all right. And then Leon Rose got here and fixed all the problems. But we know at any point James Dolan can just take over and make a decision. Here's the weird thing about it. Usually when James Dolan shows up and makes a decision, Knicks fans are adamantly against it. We weren't against the Phil Jackson thing, and since then, the last time that James Dolan has stepped in is when Steve Mills got axed, a move that, again, New York Knicks fans agreed with. So the last 2 times, and it's shocking because it's been 8 years that Dolan's only really stepped in and made a huge statement on the Knicks and made a huge decision, I should say, was when he fired 2 guys who were both incompetent. Do you see where I'm going with this? Some of you are probably ahead of me right now. A lot of Knicks fans find Tom Thibodeau incompetent. And because of that, if James Dolan does fire this man, what we are going to see is somewhere between 50 and 80% of Knicks fans take Dolan's side. Now, Knicks fans have been adamant that they are sick of Tom Thibodeau. We've seen it all over. The Knicks will not win a championship with Thibs as the head coach every night the team is playing against, and the opposing team is just, it has no idea, or Thibs has no idea how to utilize the starting 5 or the bench, which that's a fair criticism. He should not have been playing that starting 5 together. It didn't work. Saying if you're a coach, you either build your team a system or you adjust to your players. Thibs has made minimal efforts in doing so, and that's absolutely correct. Also, someone said leave Thibs in Indiana, someone comparing him to Darvin Ham, widely regarded as one of the worst coaches in recent memory in basketball. We saw people calling for the Knicks to hire Mike Malone instead of Thibodeau and then try to get Giannis as well, and we will talk about the Giannis stuff. There's a lot of noise surrounding that, and there actually is a real chance that Giannis does end up on the Knicks. It just does take an important caveat that very likely could happen, so we'll do a whole video on that. Stay tuned. But we don't want to talk about trades right now because right now we're talking about the Thibodeau situation. People saying, I don't know how anyone is looking at the roster construction over Thibs. It's his fault. People saying that he was tricking them for years with Trav B. Ryan saying that right there. Julio McCollum, also a big name in Knicks Twitter, saying he doesn't want to see Thibs coach in the NBA ever again. So there's a lot of anti-Tom Thibodeau right now going on, and it does make sense why that's a thing. Let's be real, it does make sense. And Tom Thibodeau said, like you would do after every season, you take a step back. I think decompress, you do a deep dive on the team, and then you analyze what you think you need to improve upon. And then we have the draft, then there's free agency, there's trades, and there's the internal development. And then it's study and preparation for next season. So it's a big offseason for us. So Thibs saying it's a big offseason. I didn't mean to use a photo of his eyes closed. It was from a video of a press conference. I didn't pause the video, so sorry, Thibs. But Sam Quinn made a very good argument against Thibs, saying it was necessary, but it was also desperate to change the starting lineup. Most successful coaches treat the regular season somewhat experimentally. They try different lineups so they could see what combinations work and are ready to adapt in the playoffs. Thibs didn't do that to the extent that he needed to. He rarely does. His commitment to his starters is notorious among head coaches. The rest of the series reeked of panic. That's what leads to minutes for DeLon Wright and Landry Shamet when they'd been out of the rotation for the entire postseason and most of the regular season as well. They had nothing else to try. That those minutes weren't disastrous was almost a happy accident, and it was ultimately too little, too late of a change. On top of that, Quinn mentioning that never did Tom Thibodeau address the core playing style of concerns here. The Knicks lost their defensive identity with Isaiah Hartenstein, which is a bit of an overstatement, but all right. The theoretical purpose of the Towns trade, aside from just filling in for the injured Mitchell Robinson, was to reinvent the team as a 5-out offense-first juggernaut. It never really happened. Opponents disarmed New York's pick-and-roll offense by putting their centers on Josh Hart. That allowed them to provide extra help at the rim while knowing Hart wouldn't punish them as a shooter. The obvious counter would have been to start Deuce McBride in Hart's place, injecting extra shooting into the starting lineup and providing a bit more ball pressure defensively. Instead, the starters, with McBride in Hart's place, only played 82 regular season possessions and 16 playoff possessions. That was the biggest misstep of Tom Thibodeau's tenure as a Knicks head coach this season. He didn't change the starting lineup ever. It became evident that centers could guard Josh Hart, and it worked. It's not like that happened in the playoffs. That happened in the middle of the season. The teams realized, oh, we want to stop the Brunson cat pick and roll. Josh Hart's not going to shoot threes. Easy fix. And it was. You put Deuce McBride there, career 37% shooter from deep, might change something. I've been adamant that I don't think Tom Thibodeau is a bad coach, and I stand by that. He's not a bad coach. He's just not the right coach for this team. He's a defensive-minded head coach, and this is an offensive-minded team unless the Knicks change the roster around again. Example, Giannis. It's going to stay this way. And Tom Thibodeau is not the coach for an offensive team. He's the coach for a defensive team. Because of that, you start to get a little iffy and even a little bit adamant on what you should do with Tom Thibodeau. Now, all this being said, we know Jalen Brunson loves Thibs. It's one of the reasons why he came here, as Katz and Edwards mentioned. And Brunson was asked, is that a real question right now? You just asked me if I believe he's the right guy. Yes, come on, when asked if Tom Thibodeau was the right guy to coach this team. And The Athletic mentioned that Brunson does fully back, along with Leon Rose, Tom Thibodeau as a head coach. Jalen Brunson and Tom Thibodeau have known each other since Brunson was a kid. Now, here's the thing. Thibs coached Rick Brunson. Jalen, from the Northeast, but becoming a Chicago transplant early enough in his childhood, grew up a Chicago Bulls fan for the most part. And because of that, you guys remember who the head coach of the Bulls was from 2011 to 2015? Jalen Brunson's 28 years old. That was when he was in high school. So, you know, he kind of remembers Thibs as a head coach. From a watching standpoint. He knew that his dad respected the hell of him as a head coach. It's not surprising to see Jalen Brunson have his back. Look, Brunson did the same thing last year also. When he was asked about Tom Thibodeau, as Ian Begley tweeted out last year, Brunson said players in the Knicks locker room have the head coach's back no matter what. Thibs is the reason why night in, night out, we fight to the best of our abilities. So we know Brunson has his back, and Thibs' record, 24-23 in the playoffs with the Knicks, is good. But at the end of the day, is he the right fit for this team? That's the discussion that the Knicks have to have. But if Leon and Brunson have his back, and based off the history of James Dolan not going out there and doing too many moves, especially behind Leon's back doing nothing, it's kind of hard to imagine that we're going to see Tom Thibodeau get fired from the New York Knicks. Now, things change fast in the NBA, and we likely could see it as well. I'm giving it a 20% chance Thibs gets fired in the offseason, maybe less, but more likely than not, Tom Thibodeau is going to be coaching the Knicks next year, and the Knicks have to bring in a better bench, and Leon Rose has to at least mention to Thibs, look, dude, I know I didn't give you a great bench, but you got to be willing to make changes. And we'll see if that happens. We'll see what Brunson says. We know Thibs listens to Brunson. We know Brunson listens to Thibs. They have a great relationship. Brunson's the captain. He's the voice behind the coach, so we'll see what goes down. But obviously, guys, whenever something drops, we will have a video on it within 30 minutes if there's any Knicks news throughout this offseason, and obviously there will be. So make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of the Knicks news. We'll have it out instantly. Like this video, subscribe, turn on post notifications. Have a great day. Go Knicks. I got to stop making these videos this long. I'm usually trying to go 10 minutes, not 13.